pleasure for me to be here, genuinely. You missed a bit out of my biography. I was also Minister of State for Higher Education for 3.5 years, and therefore do know, and I was also a senior university manager working for the University of London before I was a Member of Parliament, when in fact I visited Northeastern University, so I know something of the superb work that you're doing here. Now, I'm going to talk for a while, but then I'll hopefully leave enough time so that we can have some questions, comments and discussion. And in fact, remembering the need for relative brevity, I'll try to remember Shelley's famous description of a politician saying that he had lost the ability to think, but unfortunately not the power of speech, which is a thought that comes back to me from time to time. But I am delighted to be here at Northeastern, one of the many fine institutes of higher education in the Boston area, and I genuinely commend your president, Dr. Joseph Aoun, for his leadership and for genuinely putting Northeastern squarely on the international map. Boston, I think as well, genuinely is a good place to speak about global and international issues. As you know far better than I, it is a world city filled with people thinking about genuinely world and global issues. And discussing issues here, I think, can have an impact far wider than the immediate audience. It was John F. Kennedy as Senator who knew that when he spoke to the graduating class of this university on the 17th of June 1956, and he urged those young people to help the world be at a better place in which men might live at peace. These were the days where we referred just to men and not to women, but the point he was making was important. And at the time he spoke, 53 years ago, the Middle East was about to descend once again into conflict. Israel, concerned about an Egyptian arms build-up and an increase in border incursions, would later that year invade the Sinai. And the following year would see the founding of the Palestine Liberation Organization, an organization dedicated then to the aim of destroying the State of Israel. 9 years after John Kennedy spoke of peace, his brother, Edward, who we, I say as an aside, were delighted to see granted an honorary knighthood last year, Edward delivered his own commencement address at this university as well. And Senator Edward Kennedy's speech focused on America's responsibility to deliver civil rights to African Americans. But he also spoke, importantly, about US foreign policy. And what he said here in 1965 is something that I believe is as profound today as it was then. He said of other countries, and I'm quoting, "We will never be able to shape the world to our liking. The very national independence, which is their strength, makes these nations want to go their own way." Now, it's likely, I think, that Senator Kennedy was referring, given the circumstances and the time, to Vietnam. His speech was, after all, delivered just 3 months after the first American combat troops arrived in that country. But the important idea behind the remarks, that we shouldn't expect the world to fit our own idea of perfection, I think is an important one. And it's an idea I'll come back to towards the end of my remarks. Now, in mentioning these two great and important members of the Kennedy family, I hope I haven't given you an unrealistic expectation of my speech and oratory today. I can't promise to match their eloquence. But what I would like to do is to set out from a United Kingdom perspective the new political landscape that exists in the Middle East today. A landscape that I believe offers a once-in-a-generation opportunity for a genuine settlement in the Middle East. And I'd like to explore how we might help turn that opportunity into a political reality. There are, I think, two main ways in which the political landscape has changed. The first one is the change that took place right here in America. And I don't need to tell you about the importance of President Obama's election. You will have read last week, as I did, some of the thousands of words and articles summing up his first 100 days in office. And I have to say, watching this from across the Atlantic, it has been quite breathtaking. President Obama assumed office, however, in a time of extraordinary global flux, with the world's economy facing its toughest challenges for decades, with an ongoing global struggle against extremism, violent extremism that threatens us all, and now with the spectre of a global flu pandemic thrown into the mix. And I have to say, one of the thoughts I had was that I've never known a democratically elected politician come to power facing so many different challenges on so many different fronts. And any one of these problems would challenge any new administration. Together they have the capacity to suck attention away from longer term goals, such as the search for peace in the Middle East. However, I did wonder, before President Obama took office, the degree to which he would make the Middle East peace process a priority. I have to say I have been encouraged in the early months. If you look at it historically, if you look at both Bill Clinton, if you look at George Bush, they came to the peace process and the importance of the Middle East much later in their presidencies. And I think if you're going to have a lasting impact, intervening early has to be the way forward. And so therefore, this new US administration has not allowed their attention to be diverted away from the Middle East. The appointment of Senator George Mitchell as Middle East envoy shows just how determined I think the administration is to engage early and to engage fully. And from the UK perspective, we know well from Senator Mitchell's work in Northern Ireland how skillful he is at navigating his way through and finding peace. We know too that you don't give Senator Mitchell a job without expecting it to get done. He doesn't just give up, and he has the imagination and flair to find new ways forward when old paths and old routes seem to be blocked. We've certainly benefited from those skills in bringing peace to a decades-old conflict in Northern Ireland, and we are confident that his talents will be put to good use in the Middle East. The fresh approach to global affairs shown by President Obama and his team has given, I think, Senator Mitchell and others new avenues to explore. It's opened doors that were once shut and minds that were once closed. And America's voice and message is being listened to again. When it comes to the Middle East, your message, I think, is clear and absolutely in line with ours in the UK. President Obama summed it up well when he spoke to the Turkish Parliament on the 6th of April this year. He said, and I quote, "The United States strongly supports the goal of two states, Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and security." And that is certainly our objective. We support the US wish to see a two-state solution because I genuinely believe that such a solution is the only way to give Israelis and the Palestinians what they want. Put in the simplest terms, the Palestinians want statehood while the Israelis want security. What is clear to me is that neither can get what they want without both of them being able to do so. The Israelis can't have the security they crave without settling the Palestinian statehood issue, and the Palestinians can't get statehood as long as Israel feels threatened. So the only way for each side to get what they want is to deliver for the other. It's the exact opposite, if you like, of a zero-sum game. The more you give, the more I genuinely think that you gain. In many ways, the advantages of a two-state solution are not new. What is